Hello and welcome, everyone. I am delighted today to be joined by Sarah, and I'm really interested to learn a little bit more about what Sarah does and actually about homeopathy, which I believe is what Sarah specializes in. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Meera. It's great to be here.
So, Sarah, would you mind telling our listeners a little bit about you and what you do?
Sure, absolutely. So, as you said, I'm a homeopath specializing in menopause, and as such, I call myself a natural menopause expert. Briefly, this is being a homeopath is my third career. I'm 10 years in, but it was preceded by a career in international sales because I was a linguist by first profession, and then 15 years in corporate consulting. But then I hit my own perimenopause, had a baby late, and crashed into perimenopause, not realizing what it was, had no idea, hadn't even heard of it. And that led me back to my homeopath, and I saw such amazing results. I thought I have to actually make this passion into a profession.
Yeah, yeah. It's again, it's a really common story, and I think all our listeners would sort of resonate with this thing of you don't know what's happening to you, and it suddenly happens, and um, all our guests have had this passion or drive where their own experiences and journey has led them to really want to make a difference. Sarah, I was really interested by the fact that I mean, were you using Did you use homeopathy before?
Yes, well, I had been on and off before that moment. So it was the mid 40s that I kind of had a kid at 41, very intense consulting career. And around 44, 45, I started to get these symptoms. But I had before then, for probably at least 10 years, been seeing a homeopath, but not for really serious stuff. And it was kind of on and off. I didn't have anything serious and chronic. But when I went back to my homeopath in this situation, I just saw such incredible results that I thought, wow, yes, this is, as good, it's better even than I thought it was. And I want to study it.
Yeah, yeah. Homeopathy is an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I've used it. I used it for my children,
Yeah.
and actually, we also use it for our dogs.
Oh,
Surprisingly enough,
yes.
and it is and I use it for myself. Of course, it's
Yeah.
one of the things I turn to, and my homeopath has ended up being a really good friend now because we've known each other for so long, and she's treated the children for so long.
Yeah.
It is it does have incredible strength and power and efficacy, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
It really does. And it's, even though I'm 10 years qualified, I still see results sometimes that I think, oh my goodness, that's a miracle.
yeah.
I
Would you?
just, go
Yeah.
on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, would you be able to talk us through any kind of
Yes.
like
Well, to explain a little bit, I'd love to, because particularly because many people in this country, anyway, they think that homeopathy means just like all natural medicine. It means herbs and supplements, and that's actually, it's not that. So I always, when I define homeopathy, I always start by saying what it's not.
okay?
So for those women who are going out and are self-prescribing black cohosh and red clover and evening primrose oil, that is not homeopathy. That's herbalism.
Yes.
Okay, now homeopathy, it is the medicines are made from substances like that, from natural substances, but it has a very different mode of operation. Basically, a simple way of putting it is it uses nanodoses of natural substances, and it's not those substances that do the healing. What those substances do is they trigger your system to do the healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a bit similar to the mode of the operation of the principle of operation of vaccination, like where you give a little bit of the disease and then you get the body to react. But the thing about homeopathy is it's very, very gentle. It's completely natural, absolutely no side effects, because there's not enough substance in it to cause toxicity, which is so beautiful about it.
Yeah.
And some people know it for arnica, like they might take arnica or put arnica on a bruise. But it can be used across the spectrum. So it can be used for physical symptoms, be they acute, like, um, you get a burn, or you have a flu or something like that. Or it can be used for chronic physical stuff like asthma or eczema, or all those kind of more ongoing issues like recurring cystitis, for instance. And then it can also be used, and this is what people know less about it for, can be used for mental and emotional things. So if you've got anger or grief or trauma or shock, or mental issues like anxiety or depression or brain fog.
Yeah.
So there's very little it can't be used for.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think I've used it for all of those.
Yes, all of it. Me too.
You know, I was when my dad was he was passing away. It was actually at the time that he was passing away, and he had a long term illness, and you know that those were his last few hours and whatever.
Yeah,
And I ended up, I don't even know how, but ended up going meeting my friend, the
yeah,
homeopath. Ended up she just messaged me, "How you doing?" I was like, "Okay, I'm a wreck." And she's like, "Okay, have you got 5 seconds just to come outside for a coffee? You know, like coffee if you want a coffee." And actually, there was a bit of a break in between the kind of intensity, and I stepped out, and she just gave me some remedies, and she's just take those just for the next whatever, you know. Absolutely helped me enormously. I don't even know how it helped me, but I know it helped me because I
yeah,
you know, don't think. And again, you know, going back to this thing about the way that it works, my husband is a pharmacist, and he was he'll never say no to anything I wanted, you know. So he's very much very open for me doing what I want to do, what I feel is right, and he's absolutely fine with that. So I was using homeopathy, and he was just like, "Yeah, whatever, you know,
whatever.
whatever." And but would never offend anybody. He's a lovely, lovely person. He would never say anything wrong. You know, he's not arrogant or anything with it. But then we ended up getting a puppy, a dog, and she became unwell with like vomiting or diarrhea or something. And I just said, you know, I said the kids are homeopathic kids,
Yeah,
children. I just want to try homeopathy. And my homeopath also had a dog who she
yeah,
treated with homeopathy. So we got some stuff for her. And we got some Nux Vom and other bits and pieces that
yeah.
she gave. And actually, Sophie, our dog, was fine after a couple of doses. And he just looked at me and he went, "Okay, well," he said, "Sophie hasn't got a clue whether we're giving her
Yeah,
placebo or
you
real."
can't be a placebo effect. This
You
is the thing.
cannot. You
No,
can't cheat. You can't cheat a dog. You
no,
can't mentally get into a dog's brain because you know. So since that day, he's just been like, okay, there is something in this.
yes,
And she's actually at the moment, my friend is actually treating her for cancer. She's got a malignant. You know,
right.
she was literally 5, 6 weeks, eight, no, about 10 weeks ago now. We were going to have her put down. And she
Um,
literally was. I mean, literally, we had said our goodbyes, and she was being put down. But the medicine that Amanda, my homeopath, had given her suddenly started to kick in. And she is, I mean, she's here, right here with me. She's got this new lease of life and is a different dog.
yeah,
So, my point being, I know there's a lot of people who are a little bit skeptical. I've been
yeah,
in meetings, one of the APPG meetings that I was at in the Houses of Parliament, where there was a lot of skepticism around homeopathy. And I found that a little bit dismissive, but actually it is powerful.
well, here's the thing also, if you go online and you put in stuff about homeopathy, you will see so much misinformation about the fact that there is no evidence. It's not true.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, there isn't a lot of evidence, but the evidence that there is really robust. So, talking to the placebo effect that you brought up, there are in vitro studies, which is where you work with cell lines in petri dishes, that they've worked with cancer cells to notice that remedies, when they give them, the cancer cells do what's called apoptosis, which is they self-destruct.
yeah. That I think. Well, her
Yes,
tumor is shrinking.
exactly, and they've done studies not just with babies like infantile diarrhea, triple blind, controlled. People
Yeah,
say
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not
Those are really robust.
best high quality in medicine's view.
Yes,
Highest
yes,
quality studies. There are plant studies.
yes. Yeah,
So the fact that I want to say to your listeners, do not believe the fact When you hear or read, there's no evidence, it's not true.
No.
And the thing is, the people who, I don't know what the issue is, but who have an issue with homeopathy, the thing is, if you tell a lie often enough, it becomes a truth.
Mm, mm, mm.
And, I mean, people like you and me, we know, and I
Yes.
see the results every day in my patients. And okay, maybe there's some placebo effect, but there's placebo effect with any
With
healer.
anything you start to
What
see.
what
Yeah.
I know is that, like I have a son, he's kind of 17 now, but I remember when he was little, he had a vomit virus. I'm thinking about one particular instance. And it cannot have been placebo effect because it took me about 4 remedies to find the right one. Each one didn't do anything. And then the fourth, within 5 minutes, he was better.
Mm.
He'd stopped vomiting. He was getting up and walking around.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Yeah. I'm totally with you. So, it Sarah, tell us a little bit more about specifically now menopause, because that's what you work with,
sure.
that's your area of speciality. Um, have you got any case studies or anything that you could kind of share with us to say, right, okay, these are the kind of examples, this is what I've
Yes,
worked with, this is how it's helped, and this is the
yes.
impact it's had?
Yes. So absolutely, yeah, because I think that's probably most interesting for your listeners. So um, those some people may not know, but there are so far about that's been discovered about 49 possible symptoms that go along with perimenopause and menopause, and I've treated a whole range of them, but I've seen success with things like hot flushes, anxiety, insomnia, headaches, bone pain, palpitations, hair loss, menstrual flooding. But I'll give you 2 specific cases so you can hear the story. So I've given these people different names so they can't be identified. So Virginia, when she came to me, she was one of these midlife women in the typical midlife women's situation, which is called the sandwich generation.
Yeah.
So she had kids at home, a sick mum at home, and she was working, actually running her own business as a lawyer, so pretty full on. And when she came to me, she was exhausted, and actually she did my menopause program, which involves doing the Dutch test, which is a comprehensive hormone test.
Yeah.
And actually her Dutch test results showed that she was on the edge of burnout. And she was as a personality very, very driven. And I see this a lot in the women I treat, that they're used to doing for everybody and not having any boundaries, saying yes to everyone. And perimenopause, I think, is the phase where we start to say no because we can't manage if we
No.
don't. So she was driven, she had really bad boundaries, she was on the edge of burnout, she was very anxious, she was like overdosing on chamomile tea to get to sleep. She was extremely irritable and having, lots of arguments with her husband and shouting at her kids. She wasn't sleeping well. She had really chronic, like neck and shoulder pain, quite a lot of hair loss. And with the program, she started to sleep, she became calm, she started to get boundaries. She started
Mm.
to look after herself. And what the remedies helped her do was to have better boundaries and to look after herself. So she started taking naps after lunch. Now she doesn't need to because she's recovered. Her adrenal glands, which produce the stress hormones,
Yeah.
have recovered. But the adrenal glands have to work awfully hard in menopause, and hers were literally on the edge of burnout. Her hairdressers remarked on the fact that her hair was starting to grow back.
Mm.
The neck pain and shoulder pain had gone. And I don't know how it does it, homeopathy, but somehow it seems to have what I call a non local effect. I think probably
Mm.
due to her having better boundaries and standing up for herself more, she opened conversations with her family about her mother's care and managed to arrange it now that she doesn't have to do it all.
Yeah.
So that was her.
I
A
think
different case. Sorry, go
I
on.
was just going to say with that, it is very interesting. So when the women that I work with come on
Yeah,
my program,
yeah,
very similar kind of effect or impact, should I say, in the sense of their self-worth and well-being,
yeah,
because they're just out of this that they, they'll come to, that sounds like to you and to me,
Mhm.
in a bit of a state, really.
Yes.
And because they can't think beyond, like, even 5 seconds, there's no
Yeah.
way that they could even think about processing how to get a conversation about saying no.
Yeah.
But because they, once you start to treat them, you were talking about that kind of, I call it that cascading effect,
Yeah.
really, and you said, it goes to different places.
Yeah.
I just think they become more confident, more
Yeah.
self-esteem.
Yeah.
They suddenly realize, oh, whoa, hold on a minute. Actually, my brain fog has cleared. I'm not so exhausted, and I'm not
Yeah.
just living on literally 1 minute to the next. I'm feeling a bit like that at the minute because I'm helping my daughter look after my very, very, very new grandson. So we're
Oh
all
gosh.
sleep deprived. We're all sleep deprived. So you add menopause and sleep deprivation
Oh
into
my
the whole thing.
goodness.
It's hysterical. But I now, when you think it's bad, you kind of go back to a situation where it happens, and then you realize how bad it is, or could be, how
Yes.
these women are feeling. And sometimes think maybe that's what this is happening. It's happening for a reason, because I get it. I actually will be messaging, everybody saying, "Right, what's next in my diary? What's coming up?" Because you can't
Yes.
think. So helping all these areas, your adrenals and whatever you
Yeah.
said, I think just helps to lift, doesn't it? Helps to lift
Yes.
everything, and you feel
And
clearer.
yeah, and I do have a kind of more, if you like, metaphysical view about menopause, which is, I think I always talk about the hidden gifts of menopause. It brings challenges underneath which there are hidden gifts. And my view is that, we're like, if you're like a house, over the years, you've papered over the cracks,
Yeah,
like probably several times. And those
yeah,
cracks might be physical weaknesses, like, in my case, digestive issues, or it might be emotional issues like, not having very good boundaries, let's say.
yeah.
And every time it comes up to be, presents itself to be looked at in your life, you put a layer of wallpaper over it. But when you come to perimenopause, it's like the ground shifting under your house, and those cracks just open up and you cannot avoid them.
No.
They are in your face. Everything gets like magnified,
Yeah.
and it can be hell.
Yeah. No, you're
I
so
don't want to undermine,
no.
how difficult it is, but I feel, and my view is it, and this has helped me through my own menopause, is that I see this as part of my personal growth.
Mm.
And going through that, having that attitude, getting the support of a nutritionist and my homeopath, I've grown enormously, and it's brought me, amazing gifts. And I think it's the birth canal to, and the third age, the new phase, which, I mean, all the women that I've talked to who are out the other side of menopause
Yeah.
say this is the best time of my life.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
not the beginning of the end. A lot of
No.
women think, oh my God, perimenopause, this is the beginning of the end. It's downhill from here. Am I always going to feel like this? And of course, you do feel like that because it can go on for so long.
Yes.
Symptoms can last peri to post, like average 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, and beyond, into
Yeah,
post. I mean, but you
yeah,
you kind of seem to learn to ride the wave by then,
yeah,
particularly if you've got the support, like, the what you're offering. What,
yeah.
again, many of the women that many of the guests I have on the program, all have, and what I love is that each of us has um, our own unique way of supporting these women,
Yes,
actually, but fundamentally all comes down to that very same thing, I think, where we're just giving women the time and the space to kind of just c- kind of not calm down, but just calm down the inner body,
yes,
calm everything down inside, because it's all so angry and everything's all going on,
yes.
giving them that space, and then suddenly they see that space, and then they grow. And I think that's what's
Yeah, yeah,
really beautiful about
absolutely.
all of us, everybody I've spoken to. We each are helping those women in a very similar, to
Yeah,
achieve a very similar outcome. But what's lovely is that there are options for women out there. So, again, homeopathy,
absolutely.
a fantastic option.
Absolutely. And there is this thing about, there's much more out there now about menopause, and perimenopause is getting more attention, thank goodness, because, like, studies have been done that show 83% of women have never even heard of it.
Yeah.
And I hadn't.
No,
I
I
had no
hadn't.
idea. And they have no idea that it starts in your 40s while you still have a period.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
they put it down to all sorts of other things like that. I thought I was having a breakdown.
Yes, yeah,
I
so did I.
really thought I was
Yeah,
having a
literally,
breakdown.
literally.
And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, another person I treated, who I'm going to call Zara. She was so Virginia was postmenopausal, but Zara was, which is for those that don't know, it's after your period stopped. Perimenopause was leading up to when your period stopped, and she
yes.
had this. Headaches is a big thing, insomnia, hot
Mm,
flushes, waking at night with palpitations, hair loss. She would sometimes like find herself crying for no reason, or just feel really low and
yeah,
worthless,
yeah,
and also extreme anxiety. I see a lot of
yeah.
anxiety, like having panic attacks about the smallest thing, like was her child going to be run over coming home from school, or having a panic attack because she had to go and ask a shop assistant for some help, having previously been a really confident woman. Low, and that women's confidence gets affected because of that. And she, again, she also had a lot of hair loss.
Mm,
I did quite a lot of work with her thyroid because that was what was going on for her. And after 5 months of homeopathy, I signed her off. Haven't seen her
amazing,
since. She's all
amazing.
better. I mean, I've treated her son, so she's still good. I know she's still good, but yeah,
It's amazing, and I think what I love about speaking to someone like yourself as a homeopath, and the other guests I've had, is that there are options. There are options for people,
yeah,
and I think it's just so worth exploring them and seeing what works for you. I just don't
absolutely.
think we should be boxed into, well, this is how it's got to be. So I do feel very much that, and I'm a firm believer in having our options. I don't think we should be boxed either way, whether you want to go one way or another way, whether, whatever it may be. I just think having options is what really empowers women, to be able to make those informed choices.
I totally agree. And, there are various studies that talk about the percentage of women who don't want to take HRT or who can't. And it's over 50%,
Yes.
way over 50% in some cases. And I think what I'm trying to battle to get out there and to raise awareness is how you go and get help and you find out what the options are in the natural world, because it's unfortunately people's thinking, because they've been brought up in the world of mainstream medicine, is they think that it's one ill, i.e. menopause, needs one pill, i.e. HRT. But when you enter the world of natural medicine, it's totally different. So first of all, you can choose between Ayurveda, homeopathy, naturopathy, Chinese medicine, nutrition, reflex. There's just a huge choice. And then within each of those, I can't speak for the other modalities, but certainly it's probably like homeopathy. In homeopathy, there are 551 medicines for hot flushes alone. So this thing that a lot of women do quite innocently of, I'll Google some natural remedies for menopause, and then, oh, black cohosh, I'll prescribe myself some of that. It's like, and then it doesn't work, and they're surprised because they think it's just a one pill. They then think natural doesn't work.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, totally agree. And it's the same for nutrition, actually, because
Yeah,
nutrition, lifestyle, exercise
yeah,
is what I have learned in working with women,
yeah.
is that because of everybody's microbiome, because of everybody's DNA, you are different. Food
Yes,
is going to respond differently in your body than it is in anybody
yeah,
else's body. And actually, there really isn't a one size fits all. So again, when we do our program, I'm just starting our next program is in starting on September the 5th, and I'm seeing all the women now. We only take on a few women, so it's only
yeah,
8. But I'm seeing the women now, and each of them has a completely different meal
yes,
plan. Each of them has a completely different, even when you do their lifestyle, um, they're like, some will get up at this time, some will go to sleep at that time. Someone's got,
yeah,
someone has a really stressful um, Tuesday, Wednesday, but is really relaxed on a Thursday and Friday, and their symptoms are different on a Saturday. So it all adds up.
yes,
You just can't
absolutely.
have a one formula. Even when you're talking about HRT, it still isn't one
No,
formula.
it isn't. It
No.
isn't. It does have to
So
be. Has have to be.
exactly, and it's trial and error. So it is important for women to understand that you can't just put you can't put a plaster on it.
Yeah,
That's not going to work. B,
yeah.
you can't just take a magic pill and it's going to go away.
No, and
Um,
that's why when people say, "Well, what should I take?"
yeah,
Trying to say, "What could you recommend?" I'm like, I can't.
I have no idea. I've got to
I
get to know you.
have a materia medica of 4,000 medicines.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Now, maybe within the hormonal sphere and the person's emotional history and whatever, it might reduce it to, a couple hundred, but still,
yeah. Yeah, 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 but you still, the whole point being, I think the beauty of something like homeopathy, and again, I can't speak for any of the others because I
yeah,
don't know, but even I work with a functional nutritionist, we work together as part of that team. The whole beauty of it, really, actually, most of the experts I work with, even the personal trainer, my own personal trainer, everyone I work with, my yoga teacher, all of them, they get to know you. Once they get to know you
absolutely,
as an individual, then they start to be able to know what's right and how your body's responding to stuff. When I go to, and again, that's why I feel, again, we have spoken to a GP on this. One of
yeah,
our guests was a
yeah,
GP, specializes in menopause. And one of the reasons she moved away from her kind of the traditional practice and sort of set up on her own and is doing was because she couldn't get to know her clients.
yeah.
So
I
that
know,
is one
10
of the
minutes.
sad
I mean,
things
how
about,
can you? Yeah,
yeah, you're literally in and out. Who knows? My GP doesn't know me. Whereas my GP, when I was young, used to know my children, knew my mum, knew my dad, knew my family. It
yeah,
was so that's what I think where homeopathy and these kind of all complementary therapies that really can support you.
yeah.
I think that's the difference. You're getting to know that individual.
Absolutely. And you're getting to understand also, because for me, and I'm sure it is for you, part of prescribing is really you look at the symptoms in excruciating detail
Yeah.
on every level, but I'm also looking for underlying causes.
Mm,
So, I had a client who she was perimenopausal. For 20 years, she'd had issues with perimenopausal migraines and rage. But when it got to perimenopause, it was just most of the time that she was having those symptoms. And I tracked her back to work out what had happened 20 years ago.
mm,
She had been treated in her late teens, early 20s for really bad acne with extreme courses of antibiotics, followed by extreme courses of the pill, Dianet, which is really heavy. And then she was given 2 courses of ruoxetine, which it not only is it terrible for the liver, and if the liver isn't functioning well in menopause, you are not going to do well, but it also has a side effect of depression. She then got depression and took Prozac for
so you just keep putting
decades.
plaster on
So
top of plaster on top of
the
plaster. Yeah.
very first thing I did before I treated any of the emotional underlying causes and the trauma that she'd been through and everything is I did a homeopathic liver detox. She emailed me after 10 days. She said, "Oh my goodness, you won't believe what I've been through." She said, "After about 3 or 4 days of taking the remedy, I came out in boils." And I thought, good, because that's the liver chucking the
Yeah.
toxins onto the skin.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then she said, after about another 5 days, those had gone. And she said, "I feel like a different person." She said, "I feel like my old self. No more
Yes.
migraines, no more
Yeah.
rage."
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing, I don't know whether you find this, Sarah, is that a lot of, I mean, I say particularly women because this is about, we're talking about women, talking about menopause and this thing, but um, we just, we just accept that, oh, it's okay, we're getting a migraine. Oh, it's okay, we're a bit bloated after something we eat. Oh, it's okay that, we're getting a bit of this or a bit of that. We don't actually think, hold on a minute, there's something wrong. I'm doing
Yes,
something not right.
yeah,
Something's not my body is not happy right now.
yes,
What is going? We'll just, and I mean, I do it. We do it to sort of function.
yeah,
We do it sometimes just get on and whatever. But I think there's very few women that will sort of stop even at that and go, hold on, this has happened. How many times have I had a headache now this week? Something's going wrong.
yeah,
And I think it's that being, I think what you're bringing, I'm bringing, and I
yeah,
think again, a lot of the guests we have on bring is that awareness, giving women the empowerment to, and the approval, which they shouldn't need, but
yes,
to actually think about themselves. Like, hold on a minute, what I matter, and that's what this is kind of all about. You, like you said, you just keep putting a crack here, fill a crack here, fill a crack, because you're just looking after everybody else.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I say to my clients, give from your saucer and not your
Yes.
cup.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because most
I like
women, they
that.
give from their cup and then the cup gets empty and, oh, look, we're burnt out and we can't do anything and we can't function. But
Yeah.
you have to fill yourself up first if you're going to help anyone else. And I also talk about the fact that, estrogen apparently makes us not only nurturing, which, so that we can play our maternal role, but it makes us compliant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that one. Though I've got one client
and
who
I
I'm
think,
working with.
yeah,
She literally messaged. She. I was talking to her as a catch up Zoom, and she just said to me. She said, "Oh, Mira," she said, "I think I'm causing a few ripples in my family." I said, "What happened?" She said, Because," she said, they're saying I'm being a bit difficult." I said, "And are you?" She said, "No, I'm just sort of saying I don't want to do the ironing today. Sort yourself out. I'm not," and grown up kids, "I'm not doing this. You need to do that." "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm making this for dinner." And I was like, "Is that what you want to do?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Is that being difficult?" I said, "No, not to me. You're just speaking your mind." She said, "Okay, well, I'm just going to have to keep at it." It's like, yes.
yeah, absolutely. And I tend to, it's a bit of a specialty of mine. I tend to coach people around relationship dynamics. I think because I have a history of my own of not having great boundaries and having to had to learn them. But boundaries, I find with the people that come to me, is often a really big issue. And I think if you've historically not been great with boundaries, then in menopause, it's really going to be in your face.
It is.
And so, you know, I talk about, I offer reading, and so often when someone like your client just talked about, they've been doing a an unhealthy
Yeah.
relationship dynamic dance
Yes.
with her family.
Yes.
You do some work with her, and she says, "Do you know what? I don't like the steps that I'm having
No.
to do in this dance. I'm going to change my steps."
Yeah.
But then when you change your steps, the other people either have the choice to leave the relationship or to change theirs.
Yes.
Because they don't want to change theirs, because it was convenient and nice for them when you
Yes.
were doing what the dance you're doing, they do what's called change back
Yeah.
behavior,
Oh, right.
which is pressing your buttons to get you back
To
to
where
go
you want to
back to
be.
the
Yeah.
old dance.
Yeah. 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 It's such a fascinating topic, isn't it?
Yeah,
In itself, actually, I
yeah.
just find that absolutely amazing. Sarah, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I could literally sit here for ages having a chat. We're just definitely going to have to catch up on it for a coffee or
Likewise.
something one day, because that's going to be great. It'll be really good.
Yeah.
But we always ask our guests just towards the end of the program, all our guests, whether they would be happy to share something that they cherish, either a habit or a ritual or something that they feel that has really helps them, and perhaps could help some of our
Yes.
clients as well.
Well, on the subject of boundaries, you will know, but one of the worst exacerbators of menopausal symptoms is stress. And one of the biggest causes of stress is not having good boundaries. So I would say to the women out there, get better at saying no.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. would you
Experiment.
would you have any slight tips around that as well? Because it's very, because again, as you said, I did this was me. It's
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. I literally could sit here talking to you. It's like a reflection.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to do. I went to counselling. I had to learn to say no.
Yes, me
Um,
too.
but with saying no, as you said, it's that person. It's how do you deal with that? So you say no, and you get all not bolshy, but you kind of go, no, I don't think
No,
I
you
could
have to
do
be
that.
gentle but firm.
Yeah,
But it's about, I think, understanding where your buttons are. Like if you easily go into guilt, then the other person's going to try and press your guilt buttons. And I would suggest that where I took this idea about the dance from is a fantastic book. So anybody who's out there
please, yes,
who struggles with boundaries and saying no, you need to read The Dance of Anger. The Dance of Anger by Harriet
yeah,
Lerner, Lerner.
All
Harriet
right.
Land, The Dance Fang. It's a brilliant book.
Brilliant.
Absolutely
Brilliant.
brilliant. She's a psychotherapist and she talks through and she gives examples and talks about triangulation and, all sorts of stuff that's really good to be able to understand.
Mm. Perfect. That is just such a lovely tip. Really useful as well with the book there. I think that's I'm definitely going to get that for sure. And I
Enjoy.
will be recommending it as well. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Now, if people want to find out more about you, where to get in touch with you,
Yeah,
how to get in touch with you, or if you're on Instagram or wherever you are, would you be
yeah.
able to let our listeners know where they could find
Sure,
you?
sure. So my website is www.thrivehomeopathy.com. That's THRIVEHOMEOPATHY, thrivehomeopathy.com.
Well remembered. I was
And then I've got various stuff up there about menopause and my various menopause programs. And if they're curious, they should just press the red button and book in for a free, no strings curiosity call.
fantastic.
I'm probably you find me most on Facebook as Natural Menopause Expert,
Okay.
and I'm a lot on LinkedIn as Sarah Davison.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah,
Perfect. That's wonderful. Sarah, it has been a total pleasure. I've learnt a lot from listening to you in a really holistic way as well. Understood a lot more about homeopathy as well. And actually wonderful to know that there is research, and wonderful to know that it's robust as well. So that kind of, you know, busts those myths as well, as Amy
yes.
say. Sarah, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Meera. It's been a real joy talking to you.